It's April 8th, and the strange side of history awaits. Today, we have a woman who stayed behind to save others, an emperor killed without warning, and a mind lost to disease no one yet understood. Let's begin. On April 6, 1968, a routine flight lifted off from London Heathrow, bound for Sydney. For just a few seconds, everything was normal. Then, a violent bang. The aircraft shuddered, passengers fell to the floor, trembling beneath them. One of the engines had torn itself apart, and there was something even worse happening. The engines didn't just fail, it was ripped away from the wing. Fuel poured out, flames ignited instantly, and the sky behind the plane turned to a trail of fire. Inside the cabin, panic spread. The crew issued a mayday call as the aircraft turned back to Heathrow. Every second felt longer than the last. Just over 3 minutes after takeoff, the burning plane slammed back onto the runway. But the danger wasn't over. The fire was growing, and the thick smoke began to fill the cabin as the flight attendants rushed the passengers to the exits. One of them was 22-year-old Barbara Jane Harrison. At the door, her escape slide had failed. Passengers hesitated, frozen between the fire and the dangerous drop to the runway below, so she made the choice for them. She started pushing people out, one after the other, forcing them to jump to safety. Behind them, the flames were getting closer. People outside were screaming for her to jump. Even the captain shouted for her to save herself. She stood in the doorway, surrounded by smoke, the fire now inside the cabin, and then she turned around and walked back in. She had seen a disabled passenger who couldn't escape. Moments later, the fire consumed the aircraft. When the rescuers finally reached the wreckage, they found her, still beside the passenger she refused to leave behind. For what she did that day, she was awarded the George Cross, the highest honor for civilian bravery. In her final moments, when everyone else was running from the fire, she chose to walk straight back in to help others. On April 8th, in the year 217, a Roman emperor walked alone down a quiet road. There was no cheering crowds, no palace walls, just dust and silence, and the presence of soldiers keeping their distance as ordered. Emperor Caracalla ruled over the most powerful empire on earth, and he had stepped away from his guards for a private moment during a military campaign. It should have been nothing, but history has a way of choosing its moments carefully. From behind him, footsteps approached. One of his own men, a trusted officer, Iulius Martialis. There was no warning, just a sudden movement of a blade. An emperor who had ordered executions without hesitation, who even had murdered his own brother, never had time to react. On that empty road, far from Rome, one of the most feared men in the world died alone. But the story doesn't end there. This wasn't just revenge, because somewhere behind the scenes, another figure had been watching. Macrinus, the emperor's own praetorian prefect, had reason to believe he would be next. So instead, he acted first. The assassin tried to escape, but within seconds, he was cut down by an archer, just another body on the road. 3 days later, he declared himself empire, and just like that, the most powerful man in the world had been replaced. Do you think this was revenge, or a perfectly timed power grab? On April 8, 1906, at exactly 6:15 in the morning, a woman died in a quiet hospital room in Frankfurt. There was nothing dramatic about it, a life that had already been slowly disappearing long before her body gave out. Her name was Auguste Deter. 5 years earlier, she had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital under the care of Alois Alzheimer. At first, it was small things, forgotten words, lost thoughts, moments that slipped away too quickly to catch. But then, it got worse. She began to wander, confused and unable to recognize where she was. She saw things that weren't there and heard voices no one else could hear. During her examinations, she said words that would haunt her doctor forever. "I have lost myself." And day by day, her identity unraveled, until eventually there was almost nothing left. When she died that morning, the cause was recorded as an infection. But the real mystery wasn't how she died, but how it had taken so long for her death to arrive. After examining her brain, Dr. Alzheimer examined her brain. What he found had never been seen before: strange, twisted fibers, and evidence of something invisible, quietly destroying her from within. That discovery would go on to define one of the most feared diseases in human history. Something was erasing her, piece by piece, and only after she was gone did we begin to understand what it was. Another day, another strange bite from history. Like, comment, and subscribe. Your next eerie dose is just a day away.